We are Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes, here to talk about the Auburn coaching search. Man, what a week it has been at Auburn following a blowout loss on Saturday. Auburn names a new athletic director in Mississippi State, AD John Cohen, and then on Monday fires its coach. Things are going at a dizzying pace on the plains, and now it comes to what's next, Blake.
And yes, a lot of names being mentioned out there. The obvious ones: Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin, Deion Sanders. The top three, according to some information I got here from bookies.com, put together some hypothetical odds yesterday afternoon after the news broke that Bryan Harsin had been fired. And so Hugh Freeze with the best odds, Lane Kiffin second best, Deion the third best, the field also there at the third best. Then you've got names like Lance Leopold, Bill O'Brien, Matt Rhule, Luke Fickell. I think one of those in particular is not realistic, but I'll let you guess which one that is. Um, so it's an interesting scenario set up here for Auburn, and what's going to be a huge hire for John Cohen right off the bats, and comes in, fires Bryan Harsin that everyone knew was going to happen eventually, and now the coaching search officially begins, Chris. But just for full disclosure, you and I initially recorded something on this, and we put together some thoughts and kind of went back and forth on what we thought. But then got a little information that may change kind of our approach to how we look at this Auburn coaching search a bit.
Yeah, and for full disclosure, guys, we run an SEC channel. We try to cover all 14 teams as best we can. But your favorite insider at your school is going to know your school better than we do. That said, we do have connections. We do hear things. We do know some things. We did a video, my goodness, about a year ago on a tip I got about Brent Venables in Oklahoma. It turned out to be right, and we were pretty ahead on that. But point is, and the guy that I would listen to on this coaching search is Jay Tate at Auburn Rivals. Jay's a friend of mine, full disclosure, but Jay is incredibly well connected down there. But we do hear and see some things ourselves. We do know that landscape a little bit. Everybody knows that Auburn is a little bit different place in how it runs. And I think, Blake, the place you've got to start, well, there's two places you have to start when you talk Auburn. One is money. They owe a lot of money to guys who are not coaching at Auburn right now, including the guy they just fired in Bryan Harsin. I still think they may be paying some of the Gus Malzahn and staff buyout. That was about this time a year and a half ago. Was they still owed almost $29 million there? I'm sure they paid some more of that off. That's one thing. The other thing is fit. We know how Auburn has been run, or maybe who runs Auburn. And I think an Auburn man is always important in that search. And again, look, if you were hearing different things from your favorite local Auburn expert, especially if it's a guy like Jay, I would tell you to take what he says over what we say. Having said that, we do get some good information at times. And what we're hearing is that both those things are fairly pertinent to this search.
Yeah, as we always say, like I feel like anytime there's a job opening, well, we'll pay any money, right? Any number, you just name that number, we got the money. We'll pay somebody 100 million a year if they want. It's those kind of things. But this situation is a little different. I think you have to remember that. Is it surprising that the top splash names are the ones on the list, Chris? No, because these are all the names that fans and media have all immediately just connected the dots on, right? Hugh Freeze has been someone who's been talked about for a long time. Lane Kiffin. Why would you not want to have Lane Kiffin in the mix as your head coach if you're Auburn? Deion Sanders, the given everything he's achieved at Jackson State, and if you want to come out and just rebrand your entire program and put a face on there that is going to attract players and all kinds of stuff, sure, Deion would be on that list. But Chris, I think there's one thing that all three of those guys have in common. It's going to take some money, and
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze just and I know, trust me, I can already tell you the comments that are coming. But Auburn's got the money. They'll pay whatever the buyout is for Hugh Freeze. Trust me, Auburn will pay some buyouts. Like, we know that. There's no doubt about that at this point. But he just signed that contract, fully guaranteed through 2030. I think it's like $40 million. Kiffin obviously is going to take some money to get him out of that. At Ole Miss, Deion situation maybe a little bit different, but I still feel like Deion probably wants some money. A pretty good little number there to come take that job. So those are things that initially I don't think you really, because again, we're not making this hire, right? Like, we're not the ones doing the books over here for Auburn. But those are things you do have to factor in, and I do think this makes the situation a bit more fascinating, knowing that the finances maybe not as easy as you would think when it comes to an SEC team needing to go out and make a big hire. I don't think it's as simple as saying we're going to go out and find our guy and pay him whatever number he wants. It feels a little more complicated than that here.
Well, and now look, I get that this is not all going to come out of the school's bank account. You got boosters
Right.
willing to write checks, and I get that. But let's also look at how the boosters that run Auburn like their head coaches. They like them with strings attached that they can pull at particular times. I'm sure that'll make a lot of people happy, but it's the truth. And with that, and we will talk about some of the head coaching names, but with money, school's going to owe some 8-figure amount to coaches that no longer coach at Auburn. The school's also going to have to pay the next coach a good bit of money, probably, if you're going to attract one of those high-profile candidates. So that's a lot of checks to write at once. And if the boosters are going to write them, you know how the boosters there are bent. So with that, Blake, who have the boosters at Auburn always wanted?
I'll let you answer your own question.
Well, there's one answer to that. They have wanted Kevin Steele, and this is the part where, like, if we were doing this live on the stage, I would duck for being hit
I was
by
about
garbage.
to say, I wanted you to say the name first and not me, because I didn't want to be that guy.
You did not want any part of that.
No, I didn't want to be the guy that put that name out there. I'm sorry. And nothing against Kevin Steele, but this is a situation I don't think he can win in. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Kevin Steele is going to be the next head coach at Auburn, but I'm just saying I would not completely dismiss that name, given the situation. The other one I would watch, this fits the definition of Auburn man in its own way. Jeff Grimes, the offensive coordinator at Baylor, who was the offensive line coach at Auburn, I think from 09 to 12, or at least on that staff. Those are two names to watch. The Freeze name, I think Hugh Freeze is a terrific fit at Auburn. I think Hugh Freeze would win at Auburn. I think Hugh Freeze would kiss the babies at Auburn and do all the things that you need to do at Auburn and glad hand them with the boosters. The problem, again, is money. And I'm not saying Auburn won't pay it, but I'm just telling you these are some things to consider, okay? Again, listen to your local expert before you listen to us. But all the money that they've got to pay, well, guess what? Hugh Freeze just signed a big extension over the weekend through 2030, and that is a lot more money you've got to pay just to get Hugh Freeze as your coach. In addition to paying Hugh Freeze the money Hugh Freeze is going to command as your coach, plus you're paying Bryan Harsin and staff, plus you're paying, I think, still Gus Malzahn and staff. And Blake, those are a lot of checks to write.
Wasn't Kevin Steele part of that too? The money that didn't they pay him some money?
Oh
as
yeah,
well?
Kevin Steele was the coach there for a hot minute, and I
that's what I'm
think
saying.
Didn't they pay him $5 million to go away? I don't know if you get I don't know if you get like a coupon towards hiring Kevin Steele if you bring him back, like a,
oh man,
given that. But what man, what a mess.
By the way, I know people are going to immediately they're going to just be unhappy. Like, oh my gosh, you guys think Kevin Steele is going to be hired as a coach? That's not what we're saying. Like, we're telling you, like, and I can confirm some of the stuff that Chris has heard here. Like, it's just, it's a wild situation, Auburn. Like, if we were having this conversation about a lot of other places, like, we wouldn't go this deep into it because you'd be like, there's no chance of that happening. But with Auburn, I don't know if you can ever say there's really no chance of some of this happening.
Auburn hired Gene Chizik off of a 2-win season or whatever it was. I mean, crazy stuff happens at Auburn.
Well, that's the point. It's not that we're knocking Auburn. It's that just crazy things seem to happen when it comes to some of these, especially on the football side. Like it's just, yeah, I just don't even, I don't even know what to think about some of that. But it is something like we said, and here's the thing, right? We say all this. Would it shock us, given that they are paying multiple buyouts here, if they just like, you know what? Who cares? We got money. We'll just go out and do the same thing again. Like, let's just go out and put up the top amount possible for whoever we want. No, like that wouldn't shock us because it is something that I think is certainly a possibility. But I think there's also some significance to this of if you're John Cohen and you're coming in and this is your first, like this is, I don't even want to say like this is your first big move. It is, but like this is the biggest move you can make in terms of you are
Yeah.
coming to Auburn for, you know, like I said, I love Bruce Pearl in terms of the culture he's created of the winning at the Auburn basketball program. But it's still one of those things in terms of, you know, we know that the money that's going into the Auburn football program and what they want it to be in comparison to what's going on, you know, inside the state, which, you know, like we said, Nick Saban and what he's done. Um, so there's just there's so much to this that I think it just makes it so much harder to predict um, how this is going to unfold because I could see them going out and saying money does not matter. We will keep paying, you know, these buyouts and we will go out and get somebody that we're going to pay even more money to. But I can also see a scenario where they're like, you know what, our hands, you know, at this point, given how much money we have going out, you know, can we actually go get one of these guys? Like we said, can we buy out a Hugh Freeze contract that is now guaranteed through 2030? We don't know the specifics on that, but those are all things I think you have to factor in here when you're talking about making this. Because, like we said, you would have to buy out Lane Kiffin's. Like there's all those kind of scenarios with some of these top candidates that are being, you know, thrown around as I don't even want to say like top candidates. I think they're the most attractive options. You know, will they be the top candidates? We don't know, but those are all things I think you have to certainly look at.
Before we wrap this up, a quick word from our presenting sponsor, Stakes. Stakes app that's the place you want to spend your weekends. It's STAKES. They are the presenting sponsor of our channel. They run a predictions app that is free to join, free to play. It's not a gambling app, it's predictions. So go to Stakes, get your predictions on the record, predict anything in the game for free, see how you measure up against fans and influencers, including us. Our handle is Southeastern 14. Flex your wins. You can broadcast your takes to our community of sports fans with just a few taps on your phone, and you can earn credibility. You can build your public perceptions track record by winning competitions and earning NFT trophies for making the perfect call. Go to playwithstakes.com/14. Use the invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Okay, Blake, let's reset this a minute, okay? We know that Auburn is paying a lot of money to a lot of guys not to coach there anymore. We know that Auburn is going to want an Auburn man. That is what works there. If you do not fall in line, you will get run off. You can ask Bryan Harsin. You can ask Alan Green. Knowing that, what is a realistic path going forward for Auburn? I would say that to me rules out Lane Kiffin. I just think Lane Kiffin is a fantastic fit at Ole Miss. I listened to my friend Neil McCready, who covers Ole Miss at the rival site and has maybe the best team-related sports podcast out there that I've heard. And Neil has covered both coaches. Neil's a friend of mine. Neil thinks Freeze would be a tremendous fit in terms of doing all the Auburn things that Auburn people want that Kiffin would not. I think you throw in the money. I don't know what the buyouts are with Kiffin and with Freeze, but I would imagine that Kiffin comes with a high number. I would be surprised. I'd be very surprised if Lane Kiffin were the next coach. I don't think the dots connect there. Maybe I'm surprised that I'm wrong. I think Freeze would be a tremendous fit there if the money wasn't the issue. We can talk Deion Sanders for a bit. That's a complete wild card. But I just think the way that Auburn has done things in the past, people with ties to the school and certainly a coordinator would come less expensively. Maybe, again, Auburn pays the money, but again, factors to consider here.
Yeah, all everything we've talked about the money and considering that, here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're gonna pay the money. Like I think we look at all this stuff and we can look at the numbers and like we said, they are absolute factors. I think you have to consider. Um, but the more I think about it, I still just get a sense that this is a program that is now put itself in a situation where we talked about what happened with the Malzahn situation, the Harsin situation. Like at this point, I just think like this is to me, this feels like the time where the Auburn boosters or whoever is going to, basically John Cohen takes his job, right? And it's I hate to say this in the like it's basically like, all right, like we've got you now, right? In terms of like
Mhm.
now it's time for us to you're here. It's time for us to make our move. And I don't know. I could totally see that being the scenario here. So like there's a lot of money out there in buyout, money and all this other stuff. Um, I think we presented the side of it that if you're like prepared to be disappointed, I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but like if you're if you're looking at it from that standpoint and you're putting the money as a factor, I think that's what you look at. But I don't know, man. The more we talk about just weird stuff happens at Auburn, and the way they run things, I don't know, man. I don't think it's actually going to be as big of a factor, perhaps, as some people will perhaps point out. I just the more I think about it, I think they're going to go out and they're going to go pay a lot of money to somebody, and I just don't know who that's going to be, Chris. Like you said, I don't know. I tend to think Lane Kiffin, who would probably be my first choice. Um, I don't know if that's going to be the guy, but you know, the Hugh Freeze thing, the timing of it seems very, you know, interesting. I feel like in terms of how things have unfolded in the past couple of days,
Yeah.
and I just think if that's who Auburn wants, Auburn will go get him. Like that's just my thinking, and I don't think the money will stop them. Um, that's kind of my stance now. I think on this is it makes sense to talk about all the details that can go into it and the resources and all that, but man, the more I think about it is I just think that they with the amount of money that they probably have coming in and the booster money and all that, my guess is they get one of these top names. I just don't know which one it's going to be.
Well, that may be Liberty's way of saying, okay, fine. If you really want our coach that badly,
Come pay us a few
you
more
can have him,
dollars.
but you're going to bankroll our coaches, all of
Yes.
them for the near future, like
And you
our
know what? That's a
football,
smart
baseball,
move.
basketball.
Yeah.
That's a really smart move. By
Which
the way,
I
Liberty's got
think,
a lot of
yeah.
money too. Uh,
Yeah. I if you had again, we're gonna make our predictions here. If you had to ask me right now, I think it's going to be Hugh Freeze because I think that will be the case where, like you just said, Liberty did this. The timing of it all just makes me very, I'm very intrigued by the timing of how all this is played out. So if you want him, great. You can come get him, and Hugh Freeze can save face by saying, I know I just signed this extension, but man, it's just like this is my dream job, and you know how this plays out. Like so, I think that's the most at least right now. We say stuff changes so quickly with this, but I think that's a very likely scenario. Um, Beyond that, Kiffin, I feel like probably not going to happen. Although, like I said, that'd be my first choice. The Deion one, we'll talk about more on the Wednesday night live stream, but I think the Deion one is interesting in so many different ways. If you want branding, if you want to completely change the face of your program and get a lot of energy and a lot of, kind of positive backing, I think, behind it. I don't want to compare the two, Chris, but it's like when they brought in Bruce Pearl, like it was kind of a complete you had a different personality. You had someone who, had a background of winning. And yes, I know other stuff and all that, but you know, the Dion one is like, we talk about winning the press conference and all that. Dion probably wouldn't just win the press conference. He would win the transfer portal. He'd win the, talent pool, like all that stuff. So like I understand why that's being talked about. And, he is at Jackson State. So there's just so many different ways this can go, as with any coaching search. But I feel like because it's Auburn, would I be shocked if it turns out either way? If it's a top name, would I be shocked? No. If it's let's just go back to, what Auburn football is and go get someone out of left field that you're not expecting, I wouldn't be shocked by that either.
okay, the the line in Christmas Vacation where Eddie shows up at the house and or whatever happens, and he asks Clark if he's shocked, and Clark says, "I wouldn't be any more shocked if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet." Um, Auburn's got a big element of that in its past, so I think you never discount that. One of the greatest movie lines ever, by the way. So there's that, but I listened to you talk, and this contradicts all the information I got, and I think that where I get it, I mean, these are people that run in SEC circles at times and know some things. And again, I would always defer to your local expert on these things before us. But when is the last time money stopped anybody in this league,
Yes.
not named Vanderbilt, from anything?
Never. And it's not going to stop Auburn, who's trying to compete with Alabama. Like it's that's the more I think about it. But look, we wanted to the whole reason for this, we want to present the full situation here. Like we
Yeah,
would not be doing our job if we didn't say, here you go. Like, remember though, money wise, like here is what Auburn's paying, right? Like that is a reality. We're not making this up. Like they are paying this money to two former coaches and other guys involved. So that is a part of the equation. Now it's just a matter of what's going to be the top part of that equation, right? Like what's going to be the primary thing. And like I said, more I think about it, the primary things they want to win a lot of games and they want to beat Alabama and they want to win national championships. And to do that, I don't think you can go the route of hiring an assistant or, the route of hiring someone that just feels like either a step back or equal to what you had in Bryan Harsin. And I don't feel like that's the setup here. I don't know why you would make that move now if it was. And I just, yeah, I mean, a lot of money has gone out the door, but there's still a lot of money, in suitcases and all this other stuff. Like it's still there, right? Like, I mean, that money's still
McDonald's
there. It's like,
bags.
it's just break glass and emerge. Like that's all there. Like it's just kind of, so that's just what I think, Chris. I think they'll go out and get one of these top names, and they may honestly, they may overpay for him. Why not, right?
Hmm.
Because you got the money. You want 6 million or 8 million? How about we'll pay you 9 million? Like, I mean, it's just like we'll pay you whatever you want. So I, it's Auburn, man. I don't know what to expect. I'm sorry. I just think it's a guessing game. But the more I think about it, I think they get one of the top names.
Well, we've also neglected the really important part. If Deion Sanders is the head coach at Auburn, do he and Nick Saban still make commercials together?
Yeah, because I mean, like the what is it like the Aflac? What's the mascot? Is it the duck?
The Duck.
Um, like that's gonna have to be like the new mascot of the state or something, right? Like the
So I got a solution for Auburn. You make Deion Sanders your head coach. Let Affleck sponsor it. You change your mascot from the War Eagle to a duck.
Auburn Ducks.
They underwrite
Hmm.
those buyouts, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, you know what? So I bet you that booster discussion is, you know, we don't care if we have any money left. Like we just want to win, and we'll do whatever. We'll bring the Aflac mascot. We'll get the duck in here. We don't even care at this point. So I don't know, man. There's my prediction. I've gone back and forth on this because we wanted to present the whole entire story here in terms of where things stand, and everyone knows I think kind of the inner workings of Auburn at this point when it comes to football and the booster involvement and all that. But I mean, money can be an issue at times when you're buying out multiple coaches, but at the same time, man, the more I look at it, I feel like I think one of those top three, although I would hire Lane Kiffin as my first choice, but I think that he's probably the one I'd put behind the possibilities of a Hugh Freeze or a Dion.
Yeah.
Um, something too. I think
Kiffin is not going to go to Auburn and do the Auburn man stuff that Auburn boosters would like. I
Hugh
just don't
Freeze
think he is that guy. Hugh Freeze would do
he
that.
would sign that up. He would sign up in a hurry because he's trying to prove like this is his second chance, right? Um, and everybody has their own opinions on that thing and how it played out, but like this is it almost makes too much sense. I really think that at this point. If you ask me right now, I think it'll be Hugh Freeze because I think the timing of the extension, you could pull you one way to say, oh, well, they did it because they know he's going to be involved. But I think in another sense, it's what you said. They did it because they know they probably can't stop it. So let me at least get some more money. Um, again, everyone understands, right? The coaching. If Hugh Freeze, becomes the Auburn coach a week from now, and it's like, or whatever, like it may be later, but I would not be shocked at all because that's just how it works in this business. Extensions are extensions, and as we know, anyone who wants to get out of a contract can get out of a contract, and as long as there's money to pay it, it's going to happen. So, yeah, that would be my prediction as of right now.
Can we rule out Jimbo Fisher?
I think we can rule out Jimbo.
That was a joke.
Because boy, if you wanted to prove that you have money, if your whole goal is to flex your financial strength, and piss off your entire fan base at the same time, then go get Jimbo Fisher because you would do the ultimate. You would do something the likes of which has never been seen before. So if you want to be different,
I'm rooting for Jimbo Fisher now. That would be, man, we could do shows for weeks.
Oh God. A couple other names. We're not going to go into these, Chris. I'm just going to throw these out there. We'll debate them on the Wednesday night show. But I think Matt Rhule is an interesting name for a variety of reasons. I know everyone will say, oh man, he didn't cut it in the NFL. College is different than the NFL. He's a really good college coach. He should have stayed. Beyond that, I don't know. Like you said, unless it's just someone we're not thinking about in terms of, I don't think it's going to be Cadillac Williams, but it's kind of those things like the Auburn guys. I don't know, but I feel like someone like Deion would really embrace that. And I'm going back to Deion here, but like you want to talk about Deion, he'd have every former player in the history of the program coming out for meet and greets and but that's what he would do, right? Like he would rally that tradition. He would do all that stuff, man. I'm just like, I'm envisioning this, and look, I'm not saying he, wins 12 games a year or anything, but I just want to see it because I just want to see what happens with it. Like there you go. There's my opinion on Deion.
Well, let's talk about the important stuff. What is good for us? Well, right. I mean, if you look at what's good for us, then I think we need Deion Sanders.
We'll put up our booster money about $8.
Right.
We got about $8 in our bank right now. That we'll give you for Deion. But yeah, I mean, I think that's look. If you're asking me what I'm rooting for, I'm rooting for Deion because I think that would be the most just incredible thing in terms of because I said because of upside. I think we're discounting what Deion could do there. I think some people just write it off as well. It's Deion. It's the guy who's talked on NFL shows and got a loud mouth or whatever. Dude, he will be able to recruit. He will get transfers. You want to talk about NIL money? I mean, like they have all kinds of sponsorships. Like they will be all over the place, and he'll have the boosters, giving him more money. Like it just, I would love to see
we
it.
should do this. We should start super chats for Deion, and people who participate in super chats we send a portion of the proceeds to Auburn for to underwrite Deion's contract.
There you go. We'll see. Anyways, all right, we'll wrap this up. We're going to talk about more in the live stream on Wednesday night because we could go many different ways there. But we did want to give you guys the full, we wanted to give you the information that's out there. Obviously, conflicting information as always when it comes to coaching searches. But I think if you look at the whole story, it's worth presenting both sides of how this could play out. The side of you're going to be really excited because they went all in, or the side of boy, we did not expect this in the sort of pessimistic stance. We're going to give you all sides. So we're not saying either one of them are going to happen, but I think it's something worth looking at. And like I said, if you ask me right now, my prediction would be Hugh Freeze. But I'm sure my prediction will change as we get more information. So,
yeah, I think that would be mine too. Okay. In all seriousness, thank you for watching. We've got a great audience. We do live shows Wednesday night. We preview all SEC football games. We're doing basketball stuff. In fact, we're supposed to be doing baskall stuff right now as we do this on a Tuesday morning.
Back, so yeah.
Yeah, when there's coaching and AD changes, those things happen. But thank you for watching. The best way to get all our stuff is to hit that subscribe button. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14, and we'll see you again soon.